boys and girls. Today we are going to talk about one of my most favorite time periods in history, the Roaring Twenties. It's going to be so much fun because we are just going to dive into learning about some of the pop culture of that time. Let's get started. During the 1920s, there was something going on called Prohibition. Prohibition was a nationwide ban on the sale and import of alcohol. We are in what people of that time would call a speakeasy. A speakeasy is where friends would go and gather and have secret parties. These speakeasies were often in people's basements, sometimes in their apartments, just anywhere where they could gather to get away from law enforcement.
In the evenings, women would wear flapper dresses, especially when they went to these parties. They would be flowy and sometimes beaded or feathery so they could dance the night away. They would wear pearls and jewels and feathers, anything to make them feel glitzy and glamorous. During the day, women would dress more modestly, with longer dresses that showed a little less skin. Men often wore suits, ties, and hats, both during the day and at night. People in the 1920s were very fashionable and loved to look good.
Another thing that was popular in the 1920s was music. They didn't exactly have these, but they would get together with their friends at all those glamorous parties, in the speakeasies, and even in their homes to listen to music. Let's listen to a clip of a popular song back in the 1920s called the Charleston. How fun was that? Music in the 1920s was mainly dominated by blues and jazz, but some other popular genres were ragtime, dance music, and even Broadway music. Music back then was very upbeat and optimistic because they had just come out of World War I, the economy was booming, and people loved going to those secret parties. People just really liked dancing and enjoying life, and music was definitely a big part of all of that. We are in a cinema similar to those enjoyed by Americans during the 1920s. A very popular form of entertainment was the silent movie. A ticket for a double feature to a movie or to a live show only cost 25 cents. Americans loved going to the cinema because they could just sit back and relax and forget about all the problems of the world. During the 1920s, one of my favorite silent films was produced, Steamboat Willie. It was made in 1928 by Walt Disney and his crew. They had no idea of the history that they were making when they produced this film. It was actually the very first cartoon produced with synchronized sound. That's pretty cool. Another form of entertainment was the radio. Families liked to sit and listen to the radio together, kind of like we do with TV today. Most American homes had a radio. Families would sit together and listen to the news, special programs, political speeches, and sports broadcasts. Broadcasters started doing play-by-play descriptions of sporting events so that families could sit and listen to those in the comfort of their own homes. American culture in the 1920s was very different from our culture today. It's important for us to go back and look at culture of the past so we can see how it shapes culture of the future. We still enjoy some of the same things that they started really loving back in the 1920s, such as movies and live plays and music. Though things look a little bit different today, it's so cool to just look back and see the growth of all of this pop culture over time. Today we might be sitting down in our living rooms watching TV. We have access to things like Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus now that they didn't have back then. Most of us probably only listen to the radio when we're in our cars and not really so much in our living rooms because we can watch TVs now. You don't have to sit and listen to sports broadcasts. We can actually watch it on our TVs. It's so cool to just study and learn about fashion and music and television. Things just change over time. Things start growing. But it's really cool to just look at that growth and that progression and see where America was back then and where it is today. I hope you enjoyed learning about some of the history of the 1920s popular culture. Next time, we're going to look into the automobiles and appliances and technologies of the 1920s and look at how different the 1920s were from today. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye!
Do with the tune music.
Oh wow, that might have been real cool.
Typical with me. I can't tap in this shit.